All right. Page 400, the big 400. Where does he sleep nowadays? Asked Sam. He? Young Toosey? Why, Mother Leg. What bought Miss Kitty Camel's old house? That's he sleep next door. He do open next door for she when couples come in for a short time bed or summit ungodly like that, and she give it a bite, along her girl tabby cat, what she calls pretty maid, though it may be an ugly as an abortion. Now I sound Jamaican. Maybe I should just read it in a normal voice. You do know Mother Leg down in paradise. I can't help myself. That's gonna sound Jamaican. You do know Mother Leg down in paradise, Mr. Decker? He be real bad un, he be. But what descending party, I'd like to know, would let a scarecrow like young Toosey into its cellar? While Sam was whispering to number 2, a very different conversation was going on between Mr. Barter and young Toosey. Young Toosey was a man of incredible age. Number 2 was correct in his statement that he remembered him as a respectable Glastonbury tradesman. He had been, as a matter of fact, a well-established chemist in the days of Mr. Wallop's father. Well, Mr. Wallop's father was another of these respectable tradesmen who were always on the verge of coming to grief. But old Wallop had his redoubtable son to keep things going, whereas Toosey, who had lost his offspring, just as he had apparently lost even his Christian name, came to disaster by frequenting, day in and day out, the paradise of that epic of Glastonbury's history. Young Toosey's face was more lank and lean than the face of Don Quixote. It was the face of a walking skeleton. And yet it was, strange to say, engraved by a savage line of revolt. Whether if a human being likes cheek by jowl with utter desperation for half a century, he acquires a kind of abnormal resignation resembling that of maggots and carrion, no outsider can possibly tell. Probably young Toosey would carry the secrets of his real attitude to the world hidden behind his cadaverous countenance to the end of his days. But the attitude that he presented to the world was a perpetual grin. This grin of young Toosey's may have been the grin of the clown of the pit, always beaten, always trampled on, always decided and derided. On the other hand, it may have been the grin of the death skull itself, revealing during young Toosey's lifetime by reason of the extreme cadaverousness of his face. But whatever it was with this eternal grin that now, in the bright moonlight upon Wirral Hill, the aged protege of Mother Leg turned his face to the dry and cautious questionings of Tom Barter. There was more in this brief dialogue than the rest of that group could possibly guess, for, as a matter of fact, it had been in Mother Leg's most expensive bedroom that Mr. Barter had come late to meet Tossie Stickles. That name came up today for some reason in my brain. Tossie Stickles. That name and Weatherwax would just stick with you. Anyway. And it was a striking evidence of the old gallbird's diplomatic self-control that never for one eyelid's flicker of his corpse-like face in that bright moonlight did he betray a recognition of which both of them must have been perfectly aware. Young Toosey had many a time presented the same inscrutable grin in the presence of the great Philip himself, when he begged of the manufacturer of the street corner, though Philip, less master of his facial muscles than his manager, had been unable on several occasions to refrain from a swift, recognisant glance before he produced his sixpence. But Mr. Crow of the Elms had been also found in his day and hour a convenient use for Mother Leg's best bedroom. Young Toosey, with his death-skull grin, must, in fact, have been known to the tutelary spirits of Glastonbury as a sort of psychocampus, or inverted charion of limbo. For both Morganelli and the little nameless embryo now forming in the womb of Tossie owed their start in the long human march to the door-opening and lamp-bearing service of this once respectable tradesman of South High Street. I kind of lost what was going on in that paragraph, but that's all right. Did you find her like this? Said Tom Barter to young Toosey, as they all stood helplessly and rather foolishly before this disconcertingly representative of the sex that had conceived them. "Sure and I did, mister," replied the grinning old man. "That is, this gentleman and me did. Would I've helped up there ere heavy sill. What be doing of out of your bed, you silly old bitch, at this time of the bloody night?" And these words of the old man more hopelessly confused the New London accent of his childhood and the broad Somerset of his youth and later life. "I've never been up here in full moon before," said John, addressing Mad Bet. "'Tisn't full tonight," said Mad Bet. "I meant practically full," said John. "Haven't you noticed, lady, how the moon looks full for almost 4 days in the sky and free of clouds?" "I'm mighty fond of this milk moon," said the woman, "when it's new." "I agree with you, I certainly agree with you, lady," answered John eagerly. "It's when it's neither round like it is tonight, nor new like you describe, but all funny and shapeless, that it's not nearly so nice." "It don't melt a person's sorrow away till it be big and round," said the woman. "Do you suppose people in all ages have climbed up Whirl Hill in moonlight like this?" inquired John. "Shouldn't wonder, young man, shouldn't wonder," replied Mad Bet. "You and me be come and then be summit, bain't he? And these other folks be come, bain't they? But some folks do come if they bodies be leave their souls down in the street. Don't ye be like one of them, they, young man, don't ye be like one of they." "I certainly will not, lady," announced John in the most emphatic tone of malicious finality. "Come on, you two," said Barter, addressing his friends. "Let's go on now. I want to get up to the top of the hill. I want to look at that tree you were talking about." "But what about this woman?" said Sam. "Decker thinks an unknown woman is more interesting than an unknown tree," remarked John. "But if the tree of life you gents are seeking," threw in Mad Bet. "Precisely, lady," said John. "That's just it. Don't you want to come on, too, up to the top with us?" "Don't be a fool, Crow," whispered Mr. Barter. "Can't you see she's mad?" "Mad, mad, mad," murmured young Toosey with his everlasting grin. "This is Mr. Jones on the old curiosity shop," said Sam, addressing his two friends in reply to a glance from number 2, which seemed to say, "These gentlemen don't seem to be very alert to this situation. The shop that your Welshman is looking after, Crow. He's got to go back to the hospital, Barter." "It be the tree of life would be up there," reiterated the woman. "For a silver sixpence I'll take her home myself," interjected young Toosey. "If you gents would see the old party back to Orspital." One second, I just want to look up who Mad Bet is in the cast of characters. I don't remember her. If I can find it. Here we go. Mad Bet. Morgan Nelly. Stickles, my leg, Toosey. Okay, young Toosey, doorkeeper at Mother Lug's other house. So that's somebody that's up there right now. And who is Mother Leg now? I forget. Obviously, it's some kind of madame. Let's see, you're listed though. One more minute. I'm gonna give up in a second. Okay, Tossy Stickles. Crow's servant. Nelly. Right, I give up. Anyway, come on, grumbled Barter. "These people can take care of themselves." "Somebody must see this woman home," said Sam. "She'd like to come to the top of the hill with us," said John. "Wouldn't you, lady? She's only resting, halfway up. Why should she have to go home on such a night as this? Why should anybody have to go home?" Oh, excuse me. "Mad, mad, mad," murmured young Toosey dreamily, contemplating with a lackluster eye the revolution of the woman's bald head as her black-beaded, black-feathered hat slipped awry. "Meany Sally, what work for one new mayor?" threw in number 2. Do say that there will be no peace in Glastonbury till either Gerd or Crow be on top. And me one thought be that the ghosties from the ruins, which do worrit I be in the hospital, be comed out to the grave to see which of them two will be. For God's sake, come on, expostulated Mr. Barter. Shall I dance for ye, my pretty gents all? Cried Mad Bet, rising unexpectedly from the iron seat and catching hold of the heavy flannel skirt which she wore and exposing her wrinkled, swollen woolen stockings. Here we go round the mulberry bush, chanted the old woman, skipping up and down with an expression of childish gravity, while the loose beaded tassels hanging from her hat bobbed this way and that over her ghastly white skull. It's like seeing a moonlight on a gibbet, thought John. Well, lady, he said aloud, are you coming uphill with us or going downhill with these men? But Mad Bet waved away the arm which John had half-consciously stretched out towards her. In and out the window, she now piped in a shrill scream, tossing up her withered shanks and wagging her bald head, from which the hat soon fell to the ground. In and out the window, as you have done before. Young Toosey limped forward now and picked up the woman's hat from the grass. The effect of the moonlight, the presence of these gentlemen and one tradesman, thus transformed perforce into an embarrassed audience, seemed to go to the head of this psychocampus of unwanted infants from limbo, for, waving Mad Bet's hair in the air, he began to hop up and down on one foot. Over the garden wall, chanted young Toosey as he hopped up and down. I let the baby fall, and Missus come out and gave me a clout, and asked me what the row's about, over the garden wall. I don't know what the melody is. If you chaps won't come on with me, cried Barter, really quite angry now, I'll go on alone. These people are all right. These people can take care of themselves. We can't take all Glastonbury home. You go on with him, Crow, said Sam, and don't forget to tell me what trees you think it is up there. My father will hold to it, through thick and thin, that it's a Levantine thorn tree. And leave you here till we come back, said John. No, I'm going to take this woman with me. She lives at St. Michael's Inn. It's on my way to the vicarage. I be going with my sweetheart, cried Mad Bet, suddenly clutching hold of John's arm. I be going with my dearie to eat of the tree of life. There was an awkward pause. Well, I'm off anyway, said Barter. I'm tired of this. And he strode away up the hill without looking back, his shadow accompanying him. His outward shadow. There was, however, as Barter ascended the final slope of Wirren Hill, an interior shadow that also accompanied him. I am like Judas, though Philip is certainly not like Christ, he said to himself. John's countenance in the moonlight must have expressed anything but pleasure in the woman's grip on his arm, though, to do it justice, he made no effort to free himself. He even placed his other arm around Mad Bet's shoulder. But either because her woman's instinct had survived her insanity and she caught this look upon his face, or because, as Mr. Evans would explain, she was bent upon forcing herself to do this one thing she didn't want to do, she now flung herself loose from John, pushing him violently away from her with enigmatic words, spit it out, or I'll be grown into the death tree." And then carrying out, just as King Lear did on the cliffs of Dover when he was crowned with Furmatory, "If you get me, you'll get me by running," she started off rushing wildly down the hill. Sam flung a hurried farewell to the others and set off after her, leaving young Toosey, who had now sat down by number 2's side, so tickled by the spectacle that for a minute or two his death's head countenance became positively grave. Sam had no difficulty in overtaking Mad Bet, as she behaved with exemplary quietness all the way to her home. She was indeed so lost in some particular thought that she allowed Sam to take her not only into the inn, but up the stairs to her own chamber above the signboard. Here he left her seated on her bed in a kind of dream, a dream so deep that when he bade her good night, the only thing she said to him was, "'Tis so, 'tis so." repeated incessantly till he went away. After he had left her and was walking towards the vicarage, his own thoughts began voyaging over strange seas. He said to himself, "It must be near midnight now." And the impression came upon him that the actual identity of Christ, like a vast, shadowy, tortured ghost hovering over the moonlit town, was summoning him to make some final inward decision. It would have been impossible for him to put into words what this decision was that he felt he was being inevitably, irretrievably led to make. But it was a decision which, if he made it before midnight, that is to say, before the first midnight struck of the day when Christ died, he would never be able to retract. And that's the end of chapter Maundy Thursday. Next time we'll have the next chapter, Mark's Court. Till next time, toodly-doo from Glastonbury 2.